look at ourselves and figure out what's wrong before some drastic means is taken to put us in the hospital or something. We need to not wait it happens for us to start seeking some kind of nutritional or herbal or exercise or spiritual solution to our problem. What we have been traditionally orientated by Europeans to think and believe is that when you get sick, that's when you look for a solution to the problem. That is not when it should be done. It's kind of indicative even in, we would say, the African rites of passage, where a man-child or a girl-child is given a crisis situation, maybe to kill a tiger or maybe to endure some kind of hardship. And they're given this crisis situation so they can face reality right then and there instead of postponing facing reality, which is what we do when we get sick. All along, our bodies have been giving us signals that something's going wrong here. You better check it out. You better stop. You better reassess where you're going. You better reassess your diet. You better reassess your spiritual attitude. All along, these signals have been given to us, and we have been ignoring them. We shouldn't go into life that way. Maybe we should go into it backwards, just to back into life. Let us just think that right here and now, we only have this day to live. And what is the most important thing we need to do to live this day to its fullest? Quality. The quantity is limited to 24 hours. So we want to get the best quality out of this 24 hours that we have. And what is it we should do? And then you get into this crisis situation and say, well, I guess I'll be more mindful of my ancestors, my mother, my father, my sisters and brothers, and take more time with my children, and don't be in such a hurry, and enjoy each moment to its fullest. And then we start getting into the way we should have lived life all along, because now we're backing into life. And that's what a crisis causes us to do. And that's why a crisis was usually presented to a child, a man-child, or a girl-child in the rites of passage, so they could back into life and start viewing life for the quality that needed to be in it. Unfortunately, now we wait for a disease to happen before we do that. We get real sick, and then we try all those remedies that the doctor puts us on, the allopathic doctor. We try all of the drugs, and then the drugs don't work, and then we say, oh, well, none of these things are working for me, so I guess I'll try some herbs. What harm can it do? We wait for that to happen before we go back to nature, before we begin to put some trust in God's inherent direction written on us as to what we should do. Then we try the herbs, then we try to eat properly, and then we take the supplements, which are trying to defend us against the pollutions that exist around us. There are just so many pollutions that we need supplements to defend our bodies from them. We have the air pollution, the formaldehyde, the benzodiazines, all these free radicals floating in the air. We have the nitrates, and we have all these pollutions coming at us. And these all have been verified by NASA, of all things, the military. When they put these astronauts up in these plastic space capsules with all these pollutants they were inhaling, it was causing certain ways of thinking to occur. Because a nutritional deficiency or a disease reaction, which is what is actually occurring, first thing to react to it in your body is your brain. And then the hollow organs react to it. And then the solid organs react to it. That's what happens. We want to get to this crisis when the brain starts reacting to it, and not wait for the solid organs to get endangered. So we need to start taking this in hand and using those tools that are presented to us by nature. This is sometimes called the doctrine of signatures, in that God has written right on your body what's wrong with it. Tells you through the various colors and shifting the texture of your skin, your hair, your teeth, your fingernails, your body odors, your rhythm, your bowel movements, your urinating. All these are ways in which the body is trying to signal you that you're in a diseased state before you progress from your vertical disease state to your horizontal disease state, which you call being sick in bed. So we're going back to a period of time in our African history when these tools were available to us and taught to us in the so-called usage of cosmetics, where they would use the essence of plants and paint them on certain meridians on your face to induce a healing process. We're going to get into all these approaches where you will wear certain crystals on certain fingers or around your ankles or wrists to help stimulate a healing process. We're going to use the self-diagnosis. We're going to just treat our body by the signals that the body has given us. And don't worry about all these names, because usually these names and location names, they really don't tell you what's going on. We feel so comfortable with a name. We go to a allopathic doctor and he gives you a name and you feel comfortable with it. He says, well, you go to the doctor and he says, well, what you have here is colitis or asthma, or you have a migraine headache. And you say, oh, that's what I have. Now you feel comfortable, now that your disease has a name. What you went to the allopathic doctor for is a solution. What you usually get is a name. And so we get very comfortable with these names. So when someone comes up to you and asks you what's wrong with you, you will feel secure. You give them the name. You say, I have asthma. You don't give them the solution. You just give them the name. So we are just highly evolved in a technology of naming things, but not in giving a solution to things. And the solution is ready at hand. It's written on your face. It's in your hands, your feet, your skin, your eyes, your ears, your hair. All these signals are given to you that you're in a disease state. We don't want to wait till it to progress to a point where you say, well, there's nothing else I can do. I might as well try the herbs. What harm can they do? We want to back into life now and start from a crisis and try to live the fullest and get the best quality out of our life as we possibly can as African people. For too long, we have been teetering around, tinkering around, under 450 years of nutritional oppression and using the dietary and disease standards of Europeans to gauge our health. We are not on that clock. We have a different rhythmicity of our body. We have a different digestive system. We have a different nervous system, skeletal system, and muscular system than any other race. We are into a kind of category that they call ethnic medicine, ethnomedicine, and that each race reacts to food and those remedies differently. In order for us to be very specific by going to the right cure for us, the right treatment for us, we have to use the right solution. And that solution is your hands, your face, your ears, your tongue, your teeth. It says, here's the problem. Don't worry about the name. Here's the problem. Here's how you treat it. So I'm going to go over some of these tools in which we have and how to read a disease process. See, most of them are going to be predictive. This is not the way you're used to doing things. You're used to the crisis of carrying, the disease of carrying right then and there. You wait for your arm to get broken before you start taking precautions not to break your arm. So in African medicine, it's more predictive. We will see the signs and symptoms of a disease before it gets to that point where you are sick horizontally in bed. And these symptoms and signs and symptoms are not normally read by the allopathic doctor. They are not taught that. They're taught to wait till your disease progresses to a point where you're horizontally ill in bed. But we are going into a predictive kind of a clairvoyance, if you might call it, where the body's giving those subtle signals that something is going on wrong and you have the solution in hand. So let's just walk through a few of those kind of techniques. We're going to do it. You're going to seize the means of production. You're going to seize control of your own health. Follow me on this process. Now then, first we have to know where everything is coming from. We have to know where everything is coming from. So let's go back to the origin here. And this is how we originated, in the fetus position. And from that position, then everything began to distinguish itself and separate. But none of the organs and limbs and muscles lost their connection. They're still connected as they were in the fetus position. You see. Even the ear is basically a fetus if you look at it down in this part where the lobe is. That's why this part of the ear is the circulatory system, the outer rim, and the inside here is the digestive system, and in here is the nervous system, just as it is in the fetus position. So we can see from just looking at it how things are divided up in the body. I have here eye without the iris on it, just to give you an idea. The letter A represents the upper part of your body in all these diagrams. The letter B is the middle part, and the letter C is the lower part of the body in all these diagrams. That's why in African culture and Middle Eastern culture, they will look at you in the eye, because your eyes will tend to dilate or open up wider when you accept something, and they contract or get narrow when you reject something. If someone says something to you that you don't like, your eyes will contract. But if you accept what they say, your eyes will dilate. So they're telling you, the body's giving signals and giving you messages, and they need to be read, and I think the Europeans tend to call this body language. There are basically only 7 faces in the world, actually, so these 7 faces are common wherever you go. That's why when you go places, you'll say, I know someone that looks exactly like you. And that's because there are only 7 faces, 7 halls in the house of Osiris, 7-year cycle to the development of bones. All this has a scientific basis. And the trimesters also can be read. This is your prenatal and natal development inside your mother's womb. Can be read off the eyebrow. This is the first trimester, second trimester, and third trimester. So if there was some sort of difficulty or nutritional weakness that were sustained or by you in the first trimester, it would show up in the eyebrows. The hair may be weaker, may be thin there, of that sort, but it will always tell you when something is going on too wrong, or wrong in your system. Now then, the tongue also gives you the same message, These are the eyelashes. When they are pointing straight up, or curly, as the Europeans like to say, when they're pointing straight up, it indicates a weakness in the generative system, which is sometimes called your sex system, means your sex organs are getting weak. So you can read the body from the hair, even on the eyelashes themselves. The nose is here. This part of the nose helps you know the condition of the heart. And this part of the nose helps you know the condition of the lungs. Upper part of the body, middle part, and lower part. If you got a lot of bumps here, or rash here, or the texture of the skin changes here, you're having digestive organ weaknesses. Spleen, pancreas, stomach, liver, those organs. Just by reading the skin on the nose itself. And when the liver is usually having some problems, a person is usually very irritated. And when they're making too much bile because they're constipated and their digestive system is impacted, that person, the optic nerves will tend to swell, and that hampers your vision, and it makes you more susceptible to anger. The lips are the same. When we get to them, they are divided up the same way, but I'm not going to rush through this. Now, when we get to the eyebrows here, as I mentioned before, this downward curve is indicative of African people. It shows a strong capacity towards spirituality. It shows what they call a passive behavior to Europeans. But when the eyelashes curve inward like this, it shows a tendency toward violence, or towards aggression, or towards narrow-mindedness. You can read the state just by the eyebrows and eyes itself. And when the eyes themselves, the eyeballs, as we call it, when they point toward the nose, that means the body is acidic. When the iris is pointing toward the nose, the body is acidic, tend toward anger. When it's the iris or the colored part of your eye tends toward the external corner, that means the person is alkaline. That's what they call walled-eyed. So we can read that from the eyes itself. The colors in the eyes, when the eyes get bloodshot, as we call it, is not getting enough air. That shows a person is high on sugar or drugs or toxic matter. And when the white part of the eye is blue or purplish, that means the adrenal glands are overactive, which means you're in some kind of fight or flight state. When it's very small purple there, that means you're eating a lot of salt. And when there's a lot of purple, there's a lot of sugar involved there, or drugs. Now I'll go to the next slide. Now we're getting more specific here. More specific in how the face is related to the internal organs. As you can see, the upper part of the face is the bladder. Then you have the large intestines, and then the small intestines, and the liver is here. On the sides of the face here, and here you have the spleen. We're doing all the digestive organs, as you can see. The spleen, the pancreas, the liver, small intestines, large intestines, bladder. And that can be seen in the eyes. In the left eyes, the spleen and pancreas. You can read it. The person tends to have a lot of veins and discolorations, and this left eye indicates the condition of the spleen and pancreas. The right eye is the gall, bladder, and liver. And underneath of the eye is the kidney. That can indicate some things. When you have a soft bags or swelling under the eyes, that indicates a lot of liquids are being held in your body and you're having kidney problems. When there's discoloration in the lower part of the eyes, down here, if you look at the eyelids, pull them down, you see discoloration. It indicates a certain condition in the body. The lower eyelids, that would indicate kidney stones or kidney problems. And the upper eyelids would indicate gallbladder problems, looking under the eyelids, inconsistent color. That means it's inconsistent behavior within the organ that's related to this eye. Spleen, pancreas, kidney, gallbladder, that sort of thing. Now when we have these horizontal lines or vertical lines between the eyes, that indicates nerve problems. When you get these vertical lines here, right here, liver problems, nerve problems. Or when this whole forehead sags down, you get a little sagging spot there. That indicates the same problem. So the eyes and the face are telling you the story of what's going on, and we simply have to read it. It's constant reacting to your condition. When you have a yellow color in the corner of your eyes, right here, like in the morning, that's too much dairy products. Yellow in the corner of the eyes, too much dairy. So we're trying to read the body signal of telling us what's going on wrong. That yellow, the yellow spots in the eyes indicate liver problems. You have yellow spots, they look soft, that's liver problems. When they're hard, that indicates worms. The yellow spots in the whites of the eyes I'm referring to. Just by reading the eyes themselves, it gives you a good indication of what's going on. Then you may have a sort of a spot at the end, like a gray spot at the end of a vein in the white part of your eyes. You can look in the mirror at your eyes yourself or have someone else look and they say, well, you got a little vein there, red vein with a spot at the end of it. That indicates a clot, a blockage of that organ. The yellow usually represents the liver, as I mentioned before. And the lower lashes, eyelashes themselves, represents the sex organs. When you have few lower lashes scattered, that means your sexual organ system is getting weak, which is actually your generative system, which is actually a melanin-related response to regenerate your system. That means that you're not getting enough melanin to nourish your brain, so your brain capacity is getting weak, its ability to function. As I mentioned, that sharp slant, upward slant of the eyelashes indicates generative or pineal gland deficiency, or what the Europeans call sex organ deficiency. This is the eyes itself, and when they feel rather itchy, Your eyes, that indicates lung problems. When you're blinking a lot, that's nerve problems. Just in the eyes itself, we're doing a reading of your health status. Here's the stomach on the nose, stomach. Then we have the heart, as I mentioned before, at the tip of the nose, which is also the sex organs. Tip of the nose and the chin represents your sexual system. The bottom lip is the intestines. Small intestines is in the center, large intestines is at the end. Then you have the stomach right there, or the upper lip, as we mentioned before. So we can read the health status of your body just by looking at your lips. And as I mentioned before, when you have that downward turn of the mouth, that indicates a lot of dairy products. And you're having problems with your intestines. It means that it's kind of hard. When you have thin lips, which is characteristic of Europeans, it represents weak internal organs and fragmented thinking, what they call left-mindedness. Thick lips represents strong character. It represents a highly melanated person and a strong system with a strong constitution, which the Europeans would call passive, and where their thin lips are called aggressive, because they define the body to make themselves seem superior. That's what we have to keep in mind. When you have a shallow cleft, that's the area right here between your nose and your upper lip. This cleft part is where your face came together. And when it comes together softly, you have a shallow cleft. And when it comes together kind of forcefully, the cleft here is deeper. That cleft tells you something. A shallow cleft on above the lip indicates your digestive system. It may mean that it's not enough fluids, but usually it indicates weak genitive, or what the Europeans would call a sex system. Is weak. Whereas a deep cleft represents a strong genitive system and strong sexual system. Spots on the lip indicate the intestine may have some lesions in it. The skin is getting weak and may be tearing, and that usually is caused by constipation. Peeling of the lips indicates some digestive or small intestine problem. You can see it's related to intestine. When you're peeling there, intestines are not getting enough food or nourishment, so it pulls apart to create more surface area so it can get more nourishment. So the skin on the lip pulls apart and sloughs off, showing you the condition of your intestines. And when a person keeps their mouth open a lot, it's because they're not only having problems with breathing, but they're having problems with expansion. So they're trying to expand or create more energy in their system. That's what the lips indicated. As the face itself, the face is more vertical. That means that you have too much salt in your body, and your liver is weak, and you're eating too much animal products. Those are the vertical lines, up and down like that. The horizontal lines on the face indicate a lot of liquid, a lot of eating, and maybe some kidney problems, chaotic behavior sort of thing. And pimples indicate a lot of dairy and worms and impurities trying to come out of your system. That will be around here. That indicates your blood as well, your circulatory system. See, the lungs put air in the blood. That's why it represents the circulatory system. So bumps around here would indicate impurities in the blood, and the person would need some blood purifiers such as red clover or chaparral or golden seal, herbs such as that. And someone having some difficulty with their heart would need some hawthorn berries to increase the blood perfusion to the heart. Around the sexual system, we'll probably need some juniper berries or uva ursi to help out with that. There are herbs for each one of these. If there's some liver problems, you may need some yarrow, dandelion, milk thistle, herbs of that nature. And the small intestines, you may need some more slimy kind of herbs to help wash it out. Some slippery elm, some okra. You may need to help your bladder out by taking more melon kind of foods like watermelon, cantaloupe, melons to help flush out this bladder, to cleanse it. They're foods to help your body get well. Beets would also help with the blood and stabilize it. And as well as the calcium in carrots would help out. So by reading the skin itself for bumps and discoloration and rashes, it lets you know what is going on wrong inside of your body. Just as the hair does. When a person is balding in the back of their hair, that indicates a lot of synthetics such as drugs and chemicals, white sugar, bleached white flour, when you bald in the back of your head. When you bald on the top of your head, it indicates a lot of dairy and animal products such as that. And in front, when you bald, it represents these organs right here, the intestines and bladder, urinary excretory system. It's weak, so you bald there first. The body is telling you what's going on wrong. It's just a matter of reading it. But all this information was known to us when we came from the southern part of Africa and went up to Egypt or Ethiopia, and then went across over to the coast there, Sierra Leone and Congo, Gambia, and all of that. We took this information with us. But it was never lost to us. It was lost to these people who came to Africa, the Europeans, with their story about their invasion, which they call his story, or history of Africa, where they deliberately leave out the nutrition, which was the foundation for our civilization. Is what nourished us, what nourished our families, which nourished our scientists, architects, engineers, mathematicians, nutritionists, doctors, musicians, artists, the family structure itself, fathers, grandfathers, mothers, grandmothers. It nourished us and built the empire and built our relationships with each other, with God, and with nature. We had a strong nutritional foundation and history and legacy that we carried with us, and we are about recapturing that by reading our body properly. We know that there are many books on this subject. As you can see, we have the serpent, or the medical symbol, kind of outlined here to let you know about that. The pineal, the eye of Horus is at the top, and each crossing of the serpent is a crossing of the nervous system, and each one of these melanated centers has a certain symbol to it. It's the power of regenerating your system. As you may know, a child has a sexual system when it's born, but it's using that energy to generate itself, to grow its arms and legs and hair. So it's mostly a generative process for the sexual system until a child reaches what they call puberty, when the energy from the sexual centers turn toward reproduction. But the sexual energy is with you at birth. It's just given different usages as you change in your cycle or rites of passage. And so we have this information given to us by the so-called medical symbol, the correct flow of energy and how to read it. So when you're having a rash in this part, it's also related to this aspect of your pineal gland. This person would need more of a color purple or orange is a complementary pair. So when you're getting problems in this area of your body, you're having problems with this area of your pineal gland's ability to produce certain qualities of melanin. There's various qualities of melanin for each one of these so-called chakra, which are melanated centers. So when we get an illness in those areas, it points to an illness or deficiency in our ability to create melanin, which is done dietetically by using a lot of tropical fruits and plants. Your millet, your kush, your asparagus, your in the green side there, and also your sweet fruits such as your persimmons, your strawberries, your papayas, your mangoes. All of these have enzymes in them, hormones, which stimulates the hormone production of your pineal gland to help you keep the right rhythm. And when you have a rash in these areas, it's a rhythm illness. You see, it's a rhythm illness. They all connect to the pineal gland, and it's showing you the rhythm illness related to it. This is the pyramid position, which causes a static electricity to produce in these melanin centers, which is generated by deep breathing, which is a form of energy that goes into your body. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a larger drawing, so we can get more specific for you. Being more conscious that your lungs are here, and knowing that bumps and rashes, whiteheads, blackheads, and those worms that are pushing up against the skin itself are letting you know that you need to clean your lungs. There are herbs that help you clean your lungs. elecampane, pleurisy, to name just two. Then there's mullein, then there's ginkgo. There are many respiratory herbs for you to help you cleanse your lungs and get the right amount of air into your system. Most of the illnesses are related to the inability of the body to get the proper nourishment out of the food. So a person would have these chapped lips at the corner of their mouth, duodenum, or get those little cold sores and styes and blisters, is indicating digestive problems. So we know we have to speed up the transit time, eat more rough, uncooked, slightly steamed vegetables and raw fruits to help our digestive system regenerate itself. The body's giving all the signals to you. When you have those bags under your eyes, darkness, the blood is stagnating, it's not enough air, there's still impurities in the kidney, they're trying to get out, so you get these bags under your eyes. And then you get a larger bag, a sagging line under here, a crease indicating a person that's constipated. That shows your large intestines is having problems. The body is constantly pointing to the problems that are wrong in your system. It's a matter of reading them and then taking action. These are predictive kind of diagnoses. You're having a white hair here, plenty of it here, and maybe some dandruff. You're having problems with your spleen. You need to do things to help your spleen along with some orange foods and yellow foods to help your spleen. Eating plenty of them. Yellow, that would be bananas or plantain. Just think tropical and eat plenty of tropical fruits and vegetables and get away from the bleached white flour, the white rice, the white sugar, and the white salt. Those white things are bad for you. If it doesn't have any smell, and if it doesn't look like food, it isn't food. And it isn't healthy for you. So you need to stay away from white things to help your body be healthy. White ways of thinking, white ways of eating, white ways of behaving. Those go against your melanin production because the white diet is an anti-melanin diet. It's against the rhythmicity of the body. It's whiting out whatever blackness you have. So we need to get back to our ancestors' diet to sustain our health, and we need to get back to the system of reading, the self-diagnosis, putting your health in your hands and taking it out of the Europeans' hands, going back to the Afrocentric way of looking at your body. You see, the ear here is in a balanced state. When the ear is away from the body, that's chaotic, and it shows imbalance. But when it's against the face like this, it indicates balance. It indicates a melanated person. And when the ears are able to wiggle, it indicates a propensity toward violence, detachment, analytical thinking, that sort of thing. A weakness in the brain function, which is inferiority. That's why you find gorillas and those animals and Europeans, white people as you call them, who can wiggle their ears because they haven't created enough melanin to cause the ears to be against the face like this and in a balanced condition. So they are more or less lower on the animal chain of development. Nonetheless, this is a handy tool, and it's always in your face because this is your face. And that's why our ancestors used certain herbs to nourish their health on these meridians. They will put, they want to cleanse their blood, so they may put some juice of some red clover on their cheek, and so they would have red cheeks. Remembering that makeup was non-sexual. Men and women wore makeup in Africa. The Europeans made it a sexual thing, and the women wore the makeup just to indicate fertility or sexual availability. And the men stopped wearing makeup, but then European men even wore makeup themselves. Makeup is men and women in African culture. So is dresses or gowns. The sexism is a tool of European society used to divide and conquer, using to divide the man from the woman. Clothes were basically what they call unisexual. Makeup was unisexual. But today they are sex-related to keep the two sexes divided so the European man can maintain a superior position, inferiorizes woman. So we copy their behavior and we inferiorize black women, inferiorize ourselves, and inferiorize our culture. So we're getting back into reading our body and understanding that the body is constantly giving you signals as to what's going on wrong or what you're doing in excess or what you're doing too little of. On the back, if a person would have tightness here, kind of stiff, shoulders. That indicates stiffness in the intestines itself. Our intestines is in a spasm state due to a calcium deficiency or inability to sustain the calcium level of the skin by melanin and vitamin D. So you know they need vitamin D, you know they need to get back to raw food, and you know they need to deep breathe so they can get enough air to nourish their intestines to cause some relaxation. Or you find a person that will have a rash or a lot of bumps here. You know that their lungs are impure. They need to do things to purify their lungs. Taking such herbs as I mentioned before, as elecampane, pleurisy, mullein, for example, or ginkgo is another example. Something to relax the lungs, histidine, amino acid, something to stimulate the thymus gland to protect the lungs. That would be arginine, which is another amino acid. And red clover is also good for the lungs. So when there's a spasm here or a soreness here, that indicates the condition of the small intestines. We know the small intestines is where we absorb nutrients in our body. So we have a nutritional deficiency, a state of malnutrition when we have rashes here, tenseness here, soreness here. The body is simply giving you these signals from your eyes to your face, and now it's resorting to your back. Here's a person that's having some heart problems. That would be inconsistency of skin color here, rashes here, bumps here, soreness here. Also here, that if you have the same kind of condition, that would indicate some stomach problems. Then we have the spleen here and the liver here. Remember, the liver is basically the largest organ on the right side of the body, where all the other organs are on the left side. As you can see, the spleen and the pancreas are all on this side. So the body is telling you what's going on. Here's your large intestines. And again, we get back to the European race with their flat behind. And you notice that 90% of their illnesses are intestinal weaknesses, digestive-related weaknesses, and they have this flat behind. And this flatness here on their sex organs, because they have a lot of problems with their sexual system. They're the only race in recorded history to have venereal diseases of all sorts, from gonorrhea to syphilis to so-called AIDS, and many diseases where their reproductive system is basically failing, and their digestive system is failing. That's why they have colitis, diverticulitis, ulcers, a host of digestive diseases, diabetes mellitus, a pancreas disease, liver diseases, all of which is the inability of the digestive system to sustain life. So it's indicated by their flat behind. But if you have a rash here, a soreness here, bumps here, stiffness here, pain here, you're having problems with your large intestines, which is also related to this point spot on your arm here, your outer part of your arm. Then we get down to the liver, which is indicated by the back of your knees. You can have veins here that are very dark purple, which indicates you're not getting enough air and nutrients to your liver. The veins also can be here, which they would call varicose veins. They don't fall anywhere on the body. Everything follows laws, so you would have varicosity, varicose veins in those particular sections of your body that are weak, that are having problems. That's what the rashes indicate. The bumps indicate. Scratches indicate where a person is constantly scratching the back of their leg, always rubbing on their shoulder, scratching their shoulders. This indicates that they're trying to put some acupressure on these points. Always scratching the back of their hip or putting their hands here all the time. You see this kind of motion, these addictive behavioral motions that people have, which are pointing to the areas of their bodies which are weak. This is the doctrine of signatures. It's written on your body what is wrong. It's just being in a position to see it clearly. To a person of any sort of perception, everything is transparent. There's no secrets. All you need is the tools to see with. You need to put on your self-diagnosis glasses so you can see the body for what it is. The body is a messenger. It's a message from God to you to uplift your spirit. That's what the body is for, to help you uplift yourself. That's why it is treated as a temple and defined as a temple. The muscles are given names of gods and goddesses, so we can reinforce that in ourselves, that our body is our living temple and should be treated that way. This is the yin and yang aspect of the body, known as the great symbol of Solomon, letting you know that you have an expansive part, which is sometimes called yin, and a contractive part, which is called yang, or in African medicine, it's the male and female attribute, or the mind and the spirit combined together, which the Jews call the Star of David, which is an African symbol. Pyramids are in Africa, not in Europe. The symbol, the pyramid usage itself is an African usage, not a European. Again, when we do these kind of analysis or readings of the body, they also have a corresponding spiritual element. And some of our ancient healers used the spiritual element to indicate the disease and indicate the healing or remedies that they wanted to resort to. So they would see the upper organ problem with the lungs and thyroid and bronchi and heart as a problem in your ability to direct your spirit, to make it go in the direction you want it to go, direct your spirit intelligence, to contact your spirit in it, your pure energy. That's how they would see it. They would see it as a direct blockage or conflict with your ability to direct your spirit in any position you want it to be in, which sometimes is called free-wheeling, free will of the spirit. And those healers who are spiritually motivated, their language is the language of spirit. And another healer's language is the language of the so-called anatomy or physiology of the body, which all of these names, the lungs and the bronchi and heart, are spiritual names. Another healer would read that illness as an element and call it you're having problems with your fire, your generative system, your sight, which fire comes in, the sun comes in your eyes, so your sight is part of your fire element. And they would read it that way, and they would use fire herbs to treat that illness. Something that has yellow in it, like dandelion, you see, or yarrow. They would use those yellow type of herbs, or marigold, or calindo, those kind of plants to treat the fire element. It also indicates a problem in the third trimester of your growth and development, when you are a unified, undifferentiated mass called an egg. That indicates that maybe your father was not putting enough of his energy in your development in the embryonic state, being a partner in the trimester, which is a rites of passage for the man to go through when you are being born. As a woman is going through the trimesters, he's going through his 3 rites of passage of his development, because each time a child is born to him, it elevates him into another spiritual phase of his life. He cannot enter this other phase in his development unless he has a child. And this is a part of the man's rites of passage, which is a very spiritual kind of growth and development for the man. And his diet should change accordingly. And his thinking process should change accordingly, according to the trimester that his mate is in the baby's development. So the illnesses can be read spiritually. Say, for instance, someone is having problems with their kidneys. We would say that they are having problems directing their spirit in life. That means moving the body as a spirit. You say, my spirit is picking up this pointer. That's when a person thinks spiritually, whereas a person who thinks with their body says, my hand is picking up this pen. That is why the word this is used. This means by the will of God. So you say, this is a pointer. By the will of God, this is a pointer. This means by the will of God or spirit. This pointer, the will of God is in this pointer. That's what it means. And the word this complements that attribute of God. That's why the word this was used. Nonetheless, when a person is having problems with their kidney or spleen, they're having problems directing their body as a spirit and not seeing plants and animals as spirits themselves in a big harmony with you as a spirit. And that also can indicate that there's some spiritual problems with their adrenals or kidneys, their ability to protect their spirit. So a person having problems with their kidneys, which your adrenal glands are on top of, is having problems defending their spirit. They are under a spiritual attack. Mentalistically, in the mind thinking process, a person having problems with their kidney, pancreas, or spleen, or liver is not able to segregate thoughts well. By segregating them, they put this thought belongs to this thought. All the shoes belong together. All the chairs belong together. But they all work together as one. That's being able to synthesize reality, see the relationship of all things with one thing. God is in everything and everything is in God kind of ideation. Then you get into the spirit category of form, how to create things. Everything is created out of spirit, the earth, the air, the fire. So the person is having problems in creating matter and directing the smaller matter as a spirit. And they're also having problems with their congregation of thoughts and the so-called European primitive instincts. And the problem is in their bladder and rectum and in small intestines in the anatomical sense. But nonetheless, a spiritual, holistic way of looking at life is also a language to help you elevate yourself and be more healthy. And to read an illness. You can read an illness either as an element, fire, air, water, and earth, or you can read a state of health as spirit, soul, spirit, life, spirit, form, spirit, and physical spirit. Or you can read a state of dis-ease or ease mentally, upper thinking, middle thinking, lower thinking. Or you can read a state of health according to what is wrong with the organ. If there's something wrong with the bladder, it'll be something wrong with the congregation of thought, something wrong with the way you form spirit, the form of earth, air, fire, water. There's something wrong with your water system. We go right across when there's something wrong with your bladder, something wrong with your water element. That's the abdomen, circulatory system, blood, and all that. So you would cleanse the blood also. And that would indicate that a person has some difficulty in the third trimester of their development. If you want to get into the Trinity, the triune self, the thinker, the knower, and the doer development. All the knower is supposed to do is know. Then you have to think about it. Then you have to do. You do, you think, you know. That's the triune self. That kind of development may have some problems. So you can get as complicated as you like with your way of diagnosing an illness, or you can be as simplistic as you like. The main thrust of it all is to keep your body healthy and in balance. And reading the system, a self-diagnostic technique, or style or approach. You can use either. The main objective is to balance the body. As I mentioned before, the body is telling you what's wrong. It's simply a matter of interpreting the message. By putting 2 pounds of pressure on any of these areas, if you're a woman, and up to 5 pounds if you're a man, and if you feel sore or a little pain right here after putting 2 pounds of pressure, that's the same amount of pressure you need to put a stamp on a letter. That means you have some impurities or problems with your lungs. You put that same amount of pressure on your kidney and it feels sore or gives you a little pain, then you're having some kidney problems. This is known as acupressure. The same thing can be done with stone needles, as the Kemites did in 3500 BC, when they introduced the so-called acupuncture system. And of course the reproductive organs, the gonads, ovaries, and testes are here, and the prostate or uterus is here, below the wrist. Discoloration, rashes, bruises, scratching, bumps, scars on those areas indicate some kind of weakness there. Some need for some more nutritional balance. These tools are right in your hand to help you be healthy. It's just a matter of using them. Also, the feet are an indicator of the same thing. It's just a matter of reading it. The information is there and quite clear. Just a matter of reading it. Excuse me. We have the lymphatic system, which is another circulatory system of a kind of white, clear light fluid that goes all through your body. That's indicated by the between your toes. The person's having problems with fungus, which they call athlete's foot. The lymphatic is supposed to get rid of those impurities for you, capture them, drain them out, but the person is not doing that. So the feet are trying to indicate a problem. A soreness here indicates problems with the breast, the glands again. So you would need something to help the glands, some echinacea perhaps. But the feet are giving you the same message as your hands, as your eyes, as your eyebrows, your eyelashes, your teeth, your tongue. It's just a matter of which one you want to use to help read your body and interpret the message and tell you what's going on. This is a little clearer with less writing in it, so you can see that this is the lungs and heart here. Then we have the thyroid here, and the adrenals are sitting on top of the kidney, that's there, and the tube going down to the bladders here, and intestines here. You have your fallopian tubes and lymphs here, and the prostrate here and back of the ankle bone. Just a matter of reading it for discolorations and consistency of color, bumps, bruises, scars, a tendency to scratch that part or to put pressure on it with your hands a lot in the case that it's an imbalanced state there. Just a matter of reading it and going to the right herbs or supplements or exercising system, be it passive or active exercising system, to perfect a cure. The word cure is used in African health, whereas the word treatment is used in European health systems. We cure illnesses. We cure diseases. We think positive. We use that aspect of God. Usually, because of the high amount of processed or phosphate food, bleached white flour in its many forms, and pastries and noodles, spaghetti, cakes, ice cream, all these bleached white flour and white sugar products causes havoc on the colon. And that's where the problem is. Causes this constipation. And when the colon is maltreated because the diet is malnourished, and malnutrition is sometimes collapse and crenates in this area, which is related to your middle part of your body, as we talked about before, and this is related to the lower part of your body, middle part and upper part. That's why you have the sinuses here and the eyes here, because this is the upper part of your body, this is the middle part, this is the lower part. And any kind of inconsistency in the structure here indicates inconsistency in that corresponding system. Right here, with all this going on, this in-pocketing, which robs your body of folic acid, this right here, this pocketing out, takes away your folic acid, also indicates kidney problems, because it's kind of crenated, collapse. This is prolapse. And so your blood pressure is not consistent, it's low, because this area here absorbs the nutrients out, reabsorbs them, so the body can get more nutrients in the blood to feed your system, which they call electricity. Positive and negatively charged minerals, which give rhythm to the body, rhythmicity. So usually when a person goes into a European hospital, the first thing they do is hang a bag of sugar and water, which they call electrolytes, to put some electricity in the body to get back some rhythm, because you're having a disorder of rhythmicity. So they give you these electrolytes, which they call Gatorade when you take it in the junk food form, which is mostly just salt. And they trying to put the electrolytes or electricity in the system to get some charge going, to get some rhythm going, because it's basically a rhythm disorder. Each one of these sections here has a particular rhythm that it pulsates upon, because each one of these sections has melanated centers and produces a certain rhythm, a certain color, a certain musical note. So any inconsistency of shape in the colon or large intestines indicates an illness to that related spot. And this is how a healthy colon should look. And each area here that's pointed to in specific feeds that organ section. This feeds the stomach, this the lungs and brachia, this is the heart, the gallbladder, the liver, the parathyroid. Calcium is reabsorbed in the system from here. Each one of these sections here is related to your organs inside, and acupuncture and other sciences have validated this. So we know what's going on wrong in the body. We know that the colon is not getting enough energy. So when you see a rash in the heart spot on your hand or pain there, you know that that part of your colon is not functioning properly as well. So you need to cleanse your colon with some sort of slimy food, such as okra or slippery elm. And also, those people who have the talent can read an aura and tell you the same illness that the hands and the eyes can, the aura itself. That's a sort of electronic or electromagnetic cloud around the body. A hologram, as one would call it. And you can practice reading the aura by having a person sit in front of a white wall, and you stare at them, and then you close your eyes and have them move, and open your eyes and look at that spot that they were sitting in. You should see a color, and that color indicates the aura. And by the color of the aura, you can tell what's wrong with the person. You can practice auras that way, or you can practice auras with colors. You can just put a red piece of paper against a white wall and stare at it, and then have someone remove the red paper, and then you should see the color complement. If you have a failure seeing the complement, then you have a failure with your female attribute of your system. Therefore, you're not using your spirituality to its highest esteem or highest portion. So you need to breathe deeper, blink at the sun to stimulate your pineal gland, and alter your diet accordingly. You see that you're having a weakness with the red element, so you would need to eat some red beets and things that possess red, such as red grapes. And those red foods, red pears, so you know the color you need to put in your system. Or you can use that nutritional language that the Europeans like to flip around and use, or you can use color. You can heal your body by using color, by using music, by using crystals, by using magnet, by using spirituality. It's according to which category you have the talent in. A talent is merely a gift given to you by God that you cannot deny. If you deny it, you become ill. As I mentioned before, we can use the feet to diagnose a disease or illness state. All we're doing is putting the power of treating your body back in your hands. It doesn't mean that everyone is a treatment person. It's just that you now have the language and have understanding of it, so you can teach children how to do this. If you can't do it, teach someone who can do it. At least expose them to it. This is for the benefit of our children. Some of us have long since lost our talents. We have burnt out our brains and burnt out those cells we needed through years of smoking marijuana and other drugs and alcohol. Some of us have damaged our spirituality and brain to a point where we can no longer turn back to those things to help uplift us. All of us cannot be saved, but some of us can, and we should help those who can to save themselves and save us as well. Nonetheless, I'm trying to expose you to some more tools to be healthy, some more tools to be more Afrocentric in your approach, to see yourself as a whole person, a body, mind, and spirit, and to uplift yourself. These tools are given to you. They're written on your hands. They're written on your teeth, your lips, your tongue, your hair, in your eyes, your skin. All we need to do is read them and get back to the foods that our ancestors ate. Get back to those whole foods, whole rice, whole flours, whole wheat, oats, millet, and fruits, and plenty of raw vegetables, steamed very lightly, not overcooked and not salted, which robs our bodies of potassiums and can trigger hypoglycemic reactions. So we need to get away from cravings per se and use some glutamine to stop those cravings for those junk foods. Glutamine, sometimes called glutamic acid, as well as quassia, Quassia, which is another herb to help cravings, along with chromium. You may need to take all three. You may need to take one. But nonetheless, there are nutritional tools at hand to help us to be healthy. First of all, we have to change the diet and get away from these European foods because they're killing us, they're anti-melanated, and they degenerate our system. That's why they have so many drugstores. It's the Europeans that are sick. They have the drugstores for them. We're simply an accident in the situation. They have hospitals for them. The nutritional status is based on them. The chemicals are based on them. The colors and film is based on them. So we have to get away from all that and use a system that's based on us, based on the fact that we're the most melanated race on this planet. And we know that that is the key to our defense, and the key to our spirituality, the key to our mentality, and the key to our health, proper stimulation and feeding of our pineal gland. These are just a few techniques that you can use for self-diagnosis. I hope you search further and get more interested in it and read more books on it and become more health-minded and more holistic-minded, which means more African, remembering that we are human beings. The word "hu" means black and "man" means thinking. We are human beings. We are black thinking people. We are humans. We are not after civil rights. We're after human rights. Hu means black. Man means thinking, black thinking. We have to get back to our humanness through our diet and through the proper use of food and nutrients for African people. So self-diagnose yourself. Practice. Get in the mirror. Practice. Look.